Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of Mufasa, The Lion King. This was a weird one, right, going into it, because the 2019 Lion King giant blockbuster film made over $1 billion, and I think most people agree, not that good. One of the weakest of this whole run we've had of Disney remaking their animated classics. That movie just felt just very empty. It felt like very hollow, very going through the motions. I'm not someone who's disliked all of these remakes. Some of them I thought were pretty entertaining. Jungle Book was really good. Cinderella was good. The same summer Lion King came out. Aladdin, I thought, was pretty fun. But The Lion King, yeah, that just felt like one of the most pointless as far as watching it and feeling like it's not adding anything. In fact, it's taking away the photorealistic lions, just took away any emotion, and the characters that we loved from the original, they just weren't there. And it made a lot of money, and that's why we're getting a follow-up, but it was hard to be excited by any follow-up. However, Barry Jenkins directing it, that was very interesting. This is, a man who, he hasn't won an Oscar, he's been nominated, but his film, Moonlight, did win an Oscar. He's won an Emmy, very acclaimed director for, character-driven films like Moonlight. How would it add up to him doing a Lion King photorealistic animated film? The answer is pretty good. A huge improvement over the first one, first and foremost. I came out of this movie thinking that was a pretty solid movie. Unlike the time I saw the 2019 movie, and I remember coming out thinking I felt like I completely didn't even watch anything. I felt like I was just watching some sort of, on-screen graphics that were evoking something I once loved. There is a genuine story here. There is some heart to this one. They've made some big improvements. It's not perfect by any means, and it's still kind of stretching things to even have this film exist, stretching the IP. But I think that Jenkins, made the most of what he could with the situation. This is a prequel film focused, of course, on Mufasa and his relationship with Taka, the lion who will one day become Scar. This has been a huge year for what I call sort of the X-Men First Class approach to prequels, which is we were once brothers, we were once friends, we were once sisters, our bond is broken, we will become the greatest of enemies. And we had Transformers 1, and we had Wicked, and now we cap it off with Mufasa. Once again, sort of taking this look at two characters that we know are going to have a terrible ending with Mufasa and Scar, but showing that there was once a great bond between them. Mufasa in this film is lost. He is separated from his parents in a fairly traumatic opening sequence and is taken in by Taka and his family. Well, maybe not his dad. His dad's much more begrudging about it, but his mother and Taka, they bond with Mufasa, take him in, has one of their own, except Taka is the intended king. And we know that he is not going to be king. We know that's going to be Mufasa. So this is a story of what happened, how did it lead to Mufasa being king, and how did this separation happen between them while they're on a search for sort of a mythical, beautiful land that, again, we also know they're going to find because we've seen The Lion King. The trouble with prequels, right? You have to kind of work out how they're going to get to a place we know in an interesting way. I think the movie does that, pretty well, but sometimes I think that there are some missteps. I don't know why they race through some events. For instance, when Taka and Mufasa meet as cubs, and there's some really lovely moments between them, but then we kind of immediately get to them as adults. I wanted more with them as cubs, as kids, and seeing that bond form. One of the best songs in the film is about them connecting as brothers, but I still feel that we could have seen a little bit more of that as an actual scene in the film. The connection between the two, though, is done well as the film progresses, while also, of course, showing the insecurities of Taka, the flaws in Taka compared to Mufasa, who feels like an innate hero and is, much more forthcoming, much more looking forward in a way that Taka is not. But yeah, there are a lot of elements of this movie that I thought really did click in and work. Visually speaking, I liked it a lot more than the first one. First of all, it really helps that they change up the landscape a lot. There's a good chunk of this movie set in the snow, and that was just kind of cool, no pun intended, for a Lion King film to do. To put these characters in that setting, and it really looks great. It pops. There's a couple of sequences in the water, including the one I mentioned at the beginning that separates Mufasa from his parents, that are very well done, exciting, harrowing. Barry Jenkins, has some really beautiful shots in this film. I know, by the way, every time you say shot or camera work, it's always weird because we're dealing with what is all animation and visual effects here. But that's the language we use for filmmaking, so we're just going to use that here. I think that Jenkins definitely heard the criticisms of the first movie, and he did his best to rectify that. So first and foremost, these characters emote a lot more. It's still never going to match what the 2D animation in 1994 was doing as far as fully expressive, because they didn't have to be realistic at all. But this time you definitely do see more emotion, more characterization. You feel the feelings of these characters in a way you weren't in the 2019 film, just because you actually can see on their face more joy, sorrow. Again, not quite matching what it would be if you just did an animated movie, but still getting a lot further. Also, I think that again, camera work, I put that in air quotes, but the visual approach is more dynamic. There are some sequences that almost feel like you attached a GoPro to a lion that are kind of right with you are there with the characters. There's more fanciful imagery in the film, including the opening number that has Mufasa's parents singing to him about this mythical land they're searching for, and it kind of blossoming in front of him in his imagination. And I did like that approach because, again, the 2019 movie, it felt so static, like it was just trying to shoot nature photography, except it was all done digitally, but then removing all of the heart from the story. I think this one works really hard to put that back in, and it doesn't get there 100%, but it gets there a lot more. You do connect to the characters in the story a lot more than you could in the 2019 film. It's all, of course, leading to what's going to happen between Mufasa and Taka. I don't love their answer to that question. I feel like it feels a little too simple. What is causing their rift? I'm kind of like, that's all. Okay. Although the movie ends on such a slightly ambiguous note that I wonder, do they want to do another movie? Do they want to do an in-between-quel? Because it feels like you could. I don't want them to, by the way. I think that this should be it for this incarnation of The Lion King. And I don't know if the box office will proceed forward, that they'll feel that they should do another one, because it feels like there is a lot less excitement for this movie than they managed to get for the 2019 movie. But we'll see. But hopefully it's just these two films, because I think that this is kind of ending this strange little diversion with your head held high a lot more than you did the first time. Voice cast is all really strong. Aaron Pierre, who is definitely having a moment as he's ascending in stardom, about to be Green Lantern in the Lanterns TV series. He's really strong as Mufasa. I also really liked Kelvin Harrison Jr. as Taka, and that dynamic between them. The framing device of the movie is actually a sort of pseudo sequel to The Lion King, as we're seeing Simba's daughter being told this story of her grandfather, and that allows Rafiki and Timon and Pumbaa to all return. Timon and Pumbaa are used as the comic relief, of course, again, and Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner are definitely making the most of it. There is some genuinely funny stuff with Timon and Pumbaa. I think it leans a little too heavily on meta aspects. There is some jokes up front that are very meta that I thought were really funny. And a nice little winking nod to the audience, but then they kind of do it a few too many times. It feels like they go to that well a little too much as the film proceeds. But overall, I do think the framing device works well as far as the way to present this story to the next generation about the generation that came before. Then, of course, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda writing the songs here, and an interesting moment for him where he kind of hit that oversaturated place where people were snarking on him and making fun of him and acting like he wasn't a great songwriter, which seems really silly to me because he clearly is a great songwriter. And as someone who watches Encanto and Moana all the time, I feel like, hey, he has delivered a hell of a lot of great stuff with Disney. And of course, we're coming right off Moana 2, where he didn't return, and a lot of people felt that absence in the songs in that movie. I will say, unfortunately, this is not his standout best work. It's just okay. I kind of wished it had delivered like Encanto, like Moana had. There's a couple of really good songs in it. The I Always Wanted a Brother song I mentioned earlier, really fun, a really great sort of transition song. Again, I wish we got more stuff with them Has Cubs before that song, but the song itself works really well to show that friendship and bond and show them, aging up into the young adults that the movie will focus on. And then great villain song. Mads Mikkelsen, of course, voices the main villain here, the leader of a pack of white lions, and he has a song called Bye Bye, not Bye Bye Bye, but Bye Bye, that is just a really, wonderful villain song, really fun. The fact that Mads Mikkelsen is singing a Disney villain song is also really fun if you are, like myself, a big fan of Mads Mikkelsen. So those two are really big standout songs. The rest are okay. Nothing that's, bad, but it just feels kind of basic. There's a love song, for instance, between Mufasa and Sarabi, his queen-to-be, that is pretty forgettable and definitely doesn't compare well to Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And a couple of the other songs are, they're fine, but nothing that really stands out besides those two songs that are really great and stand out a lot. So for Miranda, especially when you look at his Disney work, I don't think this stands up to the really high highs that he's hit before, but it's fine. Yeah, overall, though, I definitely did enjoy this movie. It's nothing great, and its existence is still very strange. The fact that they remade The Lion King at all to make it photorealistic in the first place, and the fact that now they're prequeling that movie. I mean, watching this movie, I thought, man, I wish this was kind of just a 2D prequel to the original Lion King. This same story could work just fine in that. I know that The Lion King 1.5 and other things that connected that story did happen at one point, but it seems like that would have been a really nice route. I also know it's 2024, and getting a 2D movie from Disney seems like something that'll never happen again, although wouldn't it be nice if it did? So yeah, this is a movie that, could have been disastrous. It is interesting, just as far as Barry Jenkins doing it, and the fact that it is trying to improve on a movie that was both a financial blockbuster, an absolute smash success, and yet also a movie that I think very few people hold in high regard. I'm sure there's some of them out there, but I haven't really encountered them yet. So, Mufasa, The Lion King, it's opening this weekend up against Sonic 3, and Sonic 3 is the one tracking higher, and I think might beat it opening weekend, and it might make, some money as we go on. I don't know if they'll be clamoring for a third movie, and like I said, I think that's fine, even though I wish there had been some story decisions made in this second one that have been a little tighter and maybe, I think, led into The Lion King a little bit stronger. I'm not saying make another movie to finish that, but I think if you do go see it this holiday season, you will find enough there to entertain you, and sometimes to emotionally connect with you, and that's something I couldn't say at all about the 2019 movie. All right, guys, those are my thoughts on Mufasa, The Lion King. If you could subscribe, that'd be great. Thanks a lot. Take care.